What is up, everybody? This is Eric the Bear Collector, and today I'm bringing you one of my favorite movies. This movie is it's a western mixed with sci-fi mixed with suspense, and the reason why I'm reviewing this movie is because earlier in the week I was doing work in my computer at work, and I kind of took a little break from what I was doing in the computer, and I kind of glimpsed out. Usually when you're doing the searches, these little articles pop out, on there, like below, like news clips, about what's going on with the government, about random things, and they kind of give a little article about the worst movies of the 2010s, and there were two movies there that I was kind of like, but I kind of, when I read the article, I was like, I kind of took it with a grain of salt, because I guess what they were trying to do, it was based upon box office numbers, and two movies there that I kind of, three actually, believe it or not, now that I think about it, at least three movies. One of them was the Lone Ranger, the one that came out with Johnny Depp a while back. That movie, John Carter, that movie's actually really good. We were just watching it, my family and I really liked that one. We were watching it last weekend. And then the other one that's a favorite of mine, Cowboys versus Aliens. This movie starts Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford. When was this movie released? I'm gonna say this movie was released, I'm looking in the back, you guys. It says 2011. 2011, really? It was released in 2011? God, really? I thought it was released a little bit after the fact. But anyways, if I see the date, I'll go ahead and post it. And I'll post it in the comments below. But this movie was from the director of Iron Man. It even says it right there. And this movie stars Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig. Basically, what it is, Daniel Craig is the main character. So is Harrison Ford. I'll explain a little bit. And like I said, yeah, it's a western. It's a western sci-fi suspense. So basically, it starts off with Daniel Craig's character, where he wakes up from, I guess he was abducted by aliens, and he wakes up in the middle of the outskirts of a town in the desert. And he wakes up not knowing who he is, what happened, or anything. All he discovers is that he doesn't have his boots, he doesn't have a hat, he has a weird bracelet on his arm, on his left arm, and he has a picture of a female with him, right? He also has like a wound right here in his stomach. And so he's kind of waking up like, what the hell happened? And they kind of show like little glimpse, of the abduction, but don't show much. He's kind of hazy. And then all of a sudden, these three cowboys come walking up, and they come walking up, and they kind of like say, oh, they're trying to find directions to this town called Absolution. And they're saying like going west towards Absolution. And so he's kind of like not knowing, like, I don't know. And they're like, what's your name? Who are you? And he's like, I don't know. So then the guys try to, they think, okay, this guy may be a outlaw because he's wounded. And they're like, oh, maybe if we get him, we can get a bounty on him, right? So anyways, he gets on, they try to get him. But man, this dude, he jumps up. He starts being the living hell out of them, right? And eventually kills them. And I don't know if he kills all of them, but I know he kills at least one of the guys. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. But he takes the boots, he takes the hat, puts a picture of the woman in the hat, takes the revolvers, checks up on the revolvers, makes sure that everything is good, and then takes a horse, and the dog follows into town. That they had a little wimpy dog with them, right? So they all he walks into town. He actually rides into town. So he gets into town. He sneaks in into the church, and in there he kind of cleans himself off. He's trying to see if anybody's there, but no one's there. And then he's greeted by the minister of the town and the doctor. So, he asks him, which, are you a friend or a foe? Which one are you, And in his response, he says, I don't know. He basically says, all I know is that I've been shot. But when Doc, that's actually the name of the character, is Doc. When he sees him, he saw, it's not a shot. It's like he's been cut. And Doc says, this is something kind of weird, looks very unusual. Trying to say like it was like a doctor incision or something like that. sews him back up. So anyway, sews him back up and everything. He's on his way. Right when he's into town, he's out there. Actually, no, I lie. He doesn't walk out yet. During the time that he's finishing sewing him up and everything, they start shooting up the place. Like, pew, pew, they start shooting up and everything, and they look. And they introduce the character of Percy, which is this, I want to say this is like daddy's boy, you know, like the rich boy in town, can do whatever he wants because his dad is actually Harrison Ford, which is like the only one that's sustaining the town with his cattle, has the money in the town. So he's shooting up the place and everything, and you know, he's shooting up the saloon owner and his wife, you know, because the saloon owner has a wife, and you know, they're pretty new, like open up the saloon. And you know, he's kind of like, the saloon owner is kind of like tired of him going in there getting free drinks, and but yet, you know, he kind of doesn't have the guts to tell him off. So he's over there trying to make a mockery of the guy, kind of bullies him. He's kind of like the town bully, right? So then you know, Daniel Craig's character, he's just standing in the corner watching the whole thing. He tries, so then Percy grabs his hat, trying to do like a little hat collection of you know, asking for money, and you know, some of the townspeople gives money. When he goes up to Daniel Craig's character, he's like, "What about you?" And then Daniel Craig kind of just kind of like whispers, "I wouldn't do that if I were you. Just get away and don't like trying to say, don't bother me." He gets kind of funky, you know, with it, right? So then he grabs a gun. He's over there because like Percy's kind of drunk, and he's over there shooting out, and then he accidentally shoots the deputy, shoots him in the shoulder, and then he tries to put the gun in. Oh, he tells him, "Don't put that gun in. You know, if you know what's good for you." Kind of tell him, don't point that in the wrong direction, right? So eventually he tries to bully Daniel Craig's character, but then Daniel Craig just hit him in the balls and just like drops him down and just walks away. So anyways, at the time when he was about to go after Daniel Craig, comes in the sheriff. They introduce another character, the sheriff, and with the deputy, mind you, was the son. Well, actually, the grandson. It's a little boy, like a 12-year-old boy. So you know, he arrests Percy, throws him in jail, and says, "You'll regret what you did because my dad, you know, he'll come in and bust me out, whatever. Like, let him loose." But he's like, "I can't. I have to arrest you. You just shot a federal personnel, someone that's a federal person, which is the deputy. I have to take you in." And he's kind of like, didn't want to, but he had to. He had to do his job as a sheriff. So anyways, takes him to jail. And then in the meantime, there's this lady, this mysterious woman, watching the whole thing too. She plays a role later in the movie too. So, you know, they take him to jail, and then the sheriff kind of looks at Daniel Craig, the character. He looks at him and kind of sees, where have I seen him before, right? But anyways, takes in Percy. It wasn't while he was in jail, like taking in Percy, the little town bully. He realizes that Daniel Craig's character is a wanted fugitive, and he had like a big bounty, like a big bounty on his head, right? So he's like, God damn, you know. So in the meantime, Daniel Craig's character is in the saloon. He's drinking up, you know, the bartender and the wife. They're kind of discussing that he feels kind of bad for being in the town. But anyways, he in the meantime, Daniel Craig's character is drinking a shot, and in comes the woman, the stranger, the one that's been observing the whole thing, right? And kind of, tells him, I need you for something, this, and that. Or kind of like, Daniel Craig thinks she's a prostitute. And he's like, no, I'm not looking for that, And she explains, no, like this and that. When all of a sudden, the sheriff walks in with his crew and arrest the Daniel Craig character. And then he discovers, because he didn't know who he was, they kind of told him, hey, you're wanted, you're him, and he can't really remember, right? And so anyways, they get into the town. It's the evening. Coincidentally, they put him next in the cell to Percy. Percy tries to talk more smack, but then he just grabs him and just hits him and knocks him out. And then all of a sudden, some other things happen. I don't want to get into details with the movie, but then all of a sudden the town gets attacked by the aliens. So everybody, in walks in Harrison Ford to introduce actually, I'm skipping a big part. Wait a minute. During the time that all happened, in the meantime, there were some of the Harrison Ford's character name is the Colonel. I forgot his last name, Dalhourie, or I can't pronounce his last name. But anyways, the crew that's herding his cattle, they're in there. One of them is like kind of like smack talking about the Colonel, that he's all thinking he's big and mighty. He's about to take a dump into the water when all of a sudden the herd gets attacked by the aliens. They like explode the herd, and he survives, the guy who's talking all the smack. So fast forward back to the scene in the evening, they introduce Harrison Ford's character, the Colonel, and he's over there questioning what happened to his cattle. He's like pissed off about it, right? So then he kind of goes in and he grabs him. He's kind of like torturing him, but then they tell him, because the other friend that was with Percy was this old Native American guy that's like kind of like his right hand man. He walks in and says, hey, Percy's been arrested. And so they kind of let him go. They smack the horse and they drag him out. So they let him go. They were about to kill him. But, they tell him the story about the herd, got exploded. And he's like, who the hell goes in there and explodes a herd, So anyways, they walk into town. They're about to bust out Percy when all of a sudden the aliens attack. So all hell breaks loose in the town, right? The aliens are all capturing like people, townspeople. In the process, they capture the wife of the saloon owner. They capture Percy in the meanwhile while they were trying to get away, because they were about to escort him into Santa Fe. They were going to take him into town. They're about to escort them to get prosecuted. But then, the Colonel is trying to stop the whole thing, but then, the attack happened. So in the meanwhile, they're in the stagecoach about to leave, when all hell breaks loose. So then, Daniel Craig's character tells Percy, hey, let me let you out. I can get us free. Breaks his arm, gets him free, right? So then the whole thing breaks loose. They capture the sheriff. They capture the sheriff, and then they capture Percy eventually. So then, in the meantime, Daniel Craig's character, the bracelet starts reacting. So then the bracelet kind of vamps up, kind of like a kind of, it looks like a shot. It looks kind of like a slingshot where it has the two brackets and it goes like that, like going like that and pointing out. So he's looking at like, what the hell is that, So then, in his mind, he's kind of like, you could tell that he's kind of remembering some of the stuff that happened to him. But not quite, right? So he walks outside into town, he walks around, takes a gun, he looks around, and all of a sudden a plane comes in. He goes like that, and then shoots down the plane with his bracelet, like poof, shoots it down, right? So the plane crash lands into the middle of the town, and then all the townspeople, like all the planes have already left. They captured a bunch of villagers, captured a lot of people, and so everybody left. And then Harrison Ford's character, they looked at each other with Daniel Craig. They go together with their guns drawn to approach the little ship. So they approach it. Everybody's like, what is it? The little boy, I guess the sheriff's grandson, because in the part the sheriff tells him, wait for your dad because he's been out for a year. So I guess the grandson kind of wants to go with the sheriff to Santa Fe, but he tells him no. Or this happened earlier, but then jumping back to the scene, the grandson is like, well, maybe it's a demon. And then next to him is Doc, the priest, which is the town preacher, and he says, I never said anything that it was demons. So what are you trying to say? And then also the saloon owner, they're like, what are you trying to say? I say, I'm not trying to say anything. So they're kind of squabbling back and forth, and then the whole process, Colonel shoots the ship, and it kind of ricochets the bullet. It's like, what is it? And then all of a sudden in the house, they hear a scream, right? Where someone is getting attacked by something, and then you hear kind of like grunts and like, and so they kind of bleed out, and then the whatever it was jumps out and leaves. And so they realize that it's something, and it's headed toward the direction where all the ships were going. And so they look at because they see the foot, it looks very different, like a different creature, right? And they look at the tracks, and he's like, whatever it is, it's bleeding, and it's heading in the direction of the ship. So anyways, they round up the posse, and then they go after it. So pretty much, I just gave you the beginning of the movie, but I'm not going to give you much later during the whole thing. So basically, you get all the townspeople, like they all band together, like Doc and his crew bands together with Daniel Craig's character, which the saloon owner goes with them. So does the boy. So does that female, the mysterious female. They all band together. Eventually down the line, also some bandits band together, as well as the Indians, because it's kind of like everybody's against each other, but they all join together to see what's going on with these aliens and see what happened to the people that got kidnapped. So this movie, believe it or not, it can fall into 3 categories. It can fall into a Western, it can fall into a sci-fi, it could also fall into a suspense, because it's suspenseful. It has its moments. But, you know, when they were trying to say that this movie kind of flopped, it was a shame, because you know, I'm a big Western fan. I like those movies like Hang 'em High, you know, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, those spaghetti Westerns and all of that. And you know, those later Westerns like the Hateful Eight, the Django, I can't pronounce it, you know, all those Westerns, I'm a big fan of those, you know. And this one's actually worth a shot. It's kind of like a sleeper hit. You know, it falls into a lot of people who fall into the different categories of sci-fi, aliens, and things like that. A lot of different people in different genres will really appreciate this movie. And you could tell the director of Iron Man directed the movie. He made a good movie, I believe. You know, people don't really give it a shot. This one's worth a watch. So if you guys are a fan of all those things, it's mostly a Western, but if you guys are a fan of those things, it's a great movie to see. Give it a shot. You guys won't be disappointed. It's a fun movie. It's one of my personal favorites. You know, to me, I revisit this movie every once in a while, and you know, my family likes it too. I haven't shown it. It's kind of strong for my son, but you know, my girlfriend and I kind of enjoyed the movie. They're good movies, you know, and this is one of them. And like I said, the other movies that I mentioned, John Carter and you know, The Lone Ranger, those are great movies too. And unfortunately, they all flopped, and you know, flopped in the box office. But I think they're good movies. But anyways, that's a story for another time. Cowboys versus Aliens, Harrison Ford, Daniel Craig, definitely worth a watch. You guys won't be disappointed. Anyways, this has been Erik the Bear Collector. Peace out.